morning, Rogues. I am going to mix up a batch of modeling glass today because I'm getting ready for some Christmas workshops where we're going to be doing some fun things. So I do need a lot of white mix. So I'm going to kind of show you, I'm going to break it into two small videos. One just to show you how to mix the modeling glass, which is an incredible product that Lois Mano developed over many years. From in her Glassbird studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico. When I first came across this product, I was absolutely amazed with the results that I could get over other freeze infuse methods and ways that you can work with powdered glass. As I was working with modeling glass, I realized that I wanted to try and keep my costs down, especially in the 96 world where we went through a kind of a scarcity of product for a couple of years while we were waiting for Oceanside to ramp up on all their production. So what I wanted to do is I mix actual pure enamels, the Rogue enamels, to clear powder that I'm using 96. So just be aware of your instructions and make sure that you follow Lois's instructions to a T. It does work, and you do need to, I refer back to this every time I make a batch of modeling glass because I really can't memorize that totally, and it's a bit like cooking where again you want the ratios and the measurements to be as accurate as possible. So I'm just going to get started, and so I have here 3 just empty plastic jars which I'm going to now start mixing. So I do have a clear sheet of paper here so that I can catch my powder as I'm measuring it. So the first thing I want to do is 1/2 cup of +2 level teaspoons of the powder. So I'm going to try, and I have a mask on here, so please be conscious of the fact that you're working with powder and you don't want to be breathing it in. So I get my 1/2 cup and I'm going to level that off. And I'm going to add it to one of my bins here. I'm now going to take my teaspoon and do 2 level teaspoons, as that's what the recipe calls for. 1, 2. There. I'm going to put my powder away so I don't knock it over. Okay, so now what I want to add to the powder is the binder. So that's this wonderful stuff. And for 96 glass, I actually have to increase it to a full tablespoon, which I'm going to add to my powder mix. So just like in baking, I do like to give that a stir so that it's all incorporated together. So kind of think of it like your flour and your baking powder that you're mixing together. And I actually leave a little well in the center. So the next thing to do is to actually measure out the water that I'm going to require. So in Lois's recipe, again, it is 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons. That's for a regular recipe, but so for 96, it's 1/4 cup plus 2 1/4 teaspoons. So just gonna, that's 1/4 cup, 1, 2, and 1/4. There we go. So that's pretty simple so far. So I am going to actually do a blend so I can show you. So I'm going to do a purple. Or sort of a purple. So I'm going to mix, it should be about 1/2 teaspoon. I want to add a total of 1 teaspoon of enamel to this water. So I'm just going to go 1/2 teaspoon of blue, and then I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon of red. Now I may add a little less red because I want it to be more of a purple based. So I'm going to start with a small amount, and then what I'm going to do is just take a brush here and kind of mix this up. So I think you can see that kind of, it's really difficult to see, but it's a beautiful purpley color. So I think that's, actually I like that a lot. And that's the advantage of mixing the enamels into the water first, is you get an idea, especially if you're blending colors, of what it will look like when it's done. So I am going to make sure that I've got all my enamel mixed into that. Saw some blue on the bottom of the little tub here. Okay. And I'm going to add that to my powder mixture. Put that off to the side. And then I'm going to stir that in so it gets kind of a real crumbly texture. But I am going to try and mix it as much as I can. So now at this point I'm going to actually add the binder, or sorry, the medium, which is this. And this calls for, I'll go back and look. So 1 full teaspoon of this binder, or sorry, medium. God, why can't I get that right? Okay, so that's in there. So now I'm just going to give that another stir around. And you can see that it's actually starting to gel together and make this really cool. So once it's to a point where it's mixed, I'm going to throw on a pair of gloves here quickly. I should have put them on before, in the interest of time, but I didn't. And it is Saturday morning, and it's early. So I'm now going to scoop up all of this mixture and start kneading it into a nice, moist, doughy-like consistency. So it's almost like a pie dough. And I want to make sure I get all of that powder incorporated into this mixture. And I've been doing this a long time. I follow the instructions every time, and I've never really come out with a bad batch of this. So I just kind of scoop the rest out, throw that off to the side. And I'm just going to, again, I'm just kneading this into a nice, and if it's too moist, so if it's really sticking to your gloves, you can add a little bit more powder, but do a little bit at a time so that you don't end up getting too much. Similarly, if it's too dry, or if I squeeze it and it cracks so many places and it looks dry and crumbly, you probably don't have enough water. So all I would do, which I'm not going to do at this point because this is just a beautiful mix, is I would dip my hand in some water onto my glove, just so I have a little bit of moisture on my glove, and then work it in. But this is a lovely shade of purple, and that is how easy it is to mix modeling glass with enamel and clear powder.